It's the Full Force News Burst with me, Chris McLeod AKA Diagnostic 80. We've managed to grab Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified Series product design manager Lenny Panzica for an interview, so let's get stuck in, shall we? On this very classified burst today, we have managed to coerce an interview with none other than Hasbro's product design manager and very specifically for us, the lead designer on the G.I. Joe Classified Series. Yes, that's right. Please welcome Mr. Lenny Panzica. Great to have you with us, Lenny. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me.
Did you like that introduction?
I did. I love it. And I can hear the explosion because I watch your video. Yeah.
Oh, now I'm worried. Now I'm worried that you actually do watch. No, that's amazing.
No, they're great. Actually, they're very, very good.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Well, look, you've heard it here first. That's actual praise direct from Hasbro. It was a real pleasure, mate, meeting you at the Hasbro preview event a few months ago, and we will be getting to the classified stuff shortly. But first off, I mean, could you tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into this line of work?
Sure. Let's see. Well, I've always been, I would say, an artist, I guess. As a kid, I always do character designs. I think it's why I love G.I. Joe so much. I mean, I would pick characters based on their look and weapons and gear. And I mean, I was the kid who would like unscrew the back of them and take them apart, re-put them together for the particular mission. I mean, in some cases it's probably saying too much, but I mean, I would like saw off a glove and then like weld it to the other hand.
Wow.
And, like, changed. I got into it, and I didn't realize at the time that I was making my own G.I. Joe.
Yeah,
so
you were customizing.
Yeah, I was customizing at like 8. I didn't even realize it. But I was so excited about it when I was a kid, and as I grew up, I was always into character design. I mean, I still do character design a lot.
Yeah.
And then that led to going to FIT, their toy design program.
Oh, cool.
FIT is the Fashion Institute of Technology, Midtown Manhattan. And from there, I did my first internship at Fisher Price.
Nice.
I'm working on the Imagine X line, which is an awesome line. Sorry, Hasbro, it's a really cool line. It was really cool working on that stuff. A lot of cool like mission play and fantasy and stuff like that.
Brilliant.
And then after my internship there, did a series of interviews with various companies, and one in particular was Hasbro in Rhode Island.
I've never heard of them. You'll have to.
Never heard of them. Really weird, very obscure company. But I interviewed for what was at the time called the Boys Action Team.
Oh, cool.
And it was for the Marvel business, specifically Spider-Man. So I came in on Spider-Man 3, which was really cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. But most of my stuff was Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, if you guys remember. The character designs by, I think, Sean Galloway.
Okay.
So that really cool, like, line work art style and stuff, which was really fun to work on.
Awesome. That's amazing. And then, so how did the actual Hasbro job come about then? I mean, how did that interview process go, for one? I mean, I always love talking to people about how their interviews went in that scenario. It
went really, really well, actually.
Well, you got the job.
I got the job. 13 years later, we're going strong. It went really well, and I got to say, I felt very welcome when I went during the interview. I was very nervous. I get very nervous during these sort of things. And, but when I walked in, I think my design style, I think my personality just vibed with the team, and it was really cool. They made me feel welcome, and I think we just clicked. Again, 13 years later.
Yeah, you must be doing something right. Let's face it. Okay, so at what point did you get involved with G.I. Joe? I mean, is Classified the first thing you've done on the G.I. Joe brand, or were you involved in G.I. Joe prior to that?
Classified is actually my first official G.I. Joe entry into the brand. I've always wanted to work on G.I. Joe. I have worked with some of the tooling, but I have never quite worked with the actual brand itself.
We did get a chance to chat at the preview event, and it was the first time I'd seen the Joe Classified figures up close. I was honestly absolutely blown away, and by the detail, the quality of the entire line, it was clear that a lot of care had gone into creating those figures. Let's start with the design process. When did you start working on these, and how did the design evolve over time?
We started working on Joe, I would say, in late 2017.
Oh, memories.
And it was before we knew we were even going to do a toy line.
Right.
We were looking at how could we reignite the brand again
Yeah.
in a new, fresh way.
Yeah.
We wanted to harken back to its roots, and we wanted to harken back to some of the golden days of Joe, like
Yeah.
what were the highlights of Joe, and how can we bring that into a new interpretation of the brand.
Right.
I mean, I think back then, before we were doing toy and just kind of character designing and concepting what these guys were going to look like, I think I did like 9 or 10 designs for every character.
Wow.
And well, every main character. So we did the main core cast of Joe, which I won't say who, and we did about. I mean, you guys can think about it, who we probably designed, but we would go from like, okay, here's what I would say is traditional design,
Yeah.
to like, here's how crazy we could get. And we even tested it too. Like we took them in front of our new demo.
Okay.
Right. So it was like, who is like the 6 to 10-year-old that we need to ignite this brand with?
Me.
Yeah, right. I'm like, well, I'm kind of in the demo for the older group, and so is everybody in the office. So it's actually funny. We did that too, though. We showed it to like a lot of kids, and we got there like, so from character A to F, which ones do you like? We extrapolated from there. Then we actually did take around the office, and you got some people like, what are you doing? And they had a lot of people being like, no, yeah, push it. So it was a lot of back and forth research, because it's a big deal.
Yes.
Reinventing or reigniting, I should probably say, reigniting a brand like this is no easy task.
Yeah.
And it has to be handled. I would always say we have to handle Joe with white gloves.
Yeah.
It's sacred to Hasbro,
Yeah.
So if we're going to do this, we got to do it right and make sure we do our research. And I think we did a pretty good job. And we took it from there. We designed from there. And we went into some vehicle designs as well. We did a very deep dive into vehicle design of how we could take those and making things unique and ownable, especially in today's day and age, in today's market and the competitive landscape there is today.
Yeah.
How do you rise above the others?
Yeah.
And I'm going on a tangent. I'm sorry.
No, that's absolutely fine. Absolutely fine indeed. But you don't listen too much to the show, because all we do is go on a tangent. In fact, I'm going to call it the full tangent from now on. Explosion. Obviously, like you just mentioned there, there's influence from the original designs. Like how important was it to keep those signposts visually for those characters, so that people could like recognize that's Scarlet, that's obviously Duke, and so on and so forth? I mean, how you don't want to obviously push it too far, because then you get into an area where it's just not the character anymore. So I mean, how important is that to keep that visual cue?
Absolutely, extremely important. But we wanted to pull from some of the interpretations, because a lot of these characters, I mean, there's 56. Yeah. There's 56 Snake Eyes. Snake Eyes? There's 56 Snake Eyes figures, and I think Scarlet has about 30.
Yeah.
But we wanted to start at the base of who they were.
Yeah.
But we didn't want to be afraid to put them in different mission gear, because a lot of Joes are in different costumes for different missions.
Sure.
So you're going to probably be seeing these characters again in different mission gear. But for this mission in particular, we set them in the gear that you guys saw in February.
I like the sound of that.
Yeah. So it was very important that you can tell who they were. It was funny. We were trying to figure out, which we did, I think, kind of a ratio. It's like our golden ratio of what gear to keep and what gear to update. And we're still working on that too. Yeah. I mean, like, this is a brand new line. You're seeing the very first wave. So we're figuring a lot of stuff out. I mean, I read a lot of the comments, so I'm taking a lot of that data in and being like, okay, we got to extrapolate this. What are we learning from this? Okay, next phase. Let's see how we can push it. Let's see how we can design these things. Well, I'm going on a little bit of a tangent.
Not at all.
You know what I mean.
Not at all.
You know what I mean.
None of these are tangents. If you'd honestly, the tangents I've gone on in the past. So I mean, out of all the figures we've seen so far, which one was your kind of favorite to kind of get stuck into the design with?
For those figures you guys have seen, I would say Destro, hands down.
I thought you were going to accidentally say a character we hadn't seen then, and just be like, you're going to have to edit that out.
I did it on purpose.
Yeah, Destro is amazing. Oh,
thank you.
Beautiful design.
He was my favorite, I would say, because I think that I was a villain kid with G.I. Joe. I just loved the whole Flash Gordon touch that they had going on in there.
Yeah.
Everything was bizarre but somehow grounded
Yeah.
with a lot of the villain design. And I mean, he's Destro with the deep voice. It's just he was so imposing as a kid,
Yeah.
but then he was so smooth.
Yeah.
Like he had it everything figured out.
There's a weird balance with Destro because you get like an honorable vibe from him, even though he's a bad guy and he's selling weapons, but then he's honorable at the same time. It's the weirdest kind of like, like it's like this fight inside him of like whether to be like, he's based on the fence in a sense, but I really, really enjoy his design, and I love that you did the incorporation of like the red collar, but made it, even though it still looks really like the Destro collar, it's far more practical. And I think that's what I like about the figures that I've seen so far, is that they've taken what, like Scarlet was never really in a practical gear, but now she looks like she's wearing practical clothing. And Destro has got like the little padded red interior thing, which looks amazing. And I love how you've done that with all of the kind of designs so far.
Thank you for mentioning that, and thank you for the compliment, because that's what we tried to do. We tried to make the gear practical, and we tried to make the gear tactical, right? So Destro, his collar actually is a blast shield, right? And so it's like the ribbing on his shoulder pads and on his thigh pads, everything is for going into battle. This guy has red lasers shooting at him. So he has to have some sort of protection, and that was the design philosophy we took going into the classified series. It's like, these guys are going into battle, they're having lasers shot at them. I mean, what is G.I. Joe without blue and red lasers, right? So and then there's other characters with axes. So it's like they have to have protective gear. They're not superheroes. They can get hurt. So their superpowers lie in their classified equipment.
Nice. That's like when the name of the movie's mentioned in the movie right there. So, I mean, were there any characters in what we've seen so far in Scarlet, Duke, Snake Eyes, Destro, and Cobra Commander? Sorry, I had an absolute brain fart then. Were there any that posed particular challenges in the design for you personally, or were they all very challenging for you?
I would say, to give a pure example of a challenge, Snake Eyes.
Yeah.
Absolutely Snake Eyes.
And you nailed it, by the way. Before you go any further, that is the perfect action figure. If you've seen my top 10 Snake Eyes of all time action figures, that's number 1 right now. So congratulations.
Thank you. That means a lot. That is it's an honor. Thank you very much.
It's a beauty. Carry on. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No, it's okay, man. It's okay. He is a complicated action figure. And my sculptor and I, Corey Cantaloupe, the sculptor of the classified series, very, very talented. And also, if you've ever seen a 6-inch action figure collection, you have not seen the 6-inch action figure collection. Corey has it's amazing. He's got a shelf dedicated to every Terminator ever made.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's awesome. So but anyways, Corey, I would say, is an articulation genius.
Yeah.
And going in, we were like, we want to put a lot of practical gear, tactical gear on these characters, but they've got to articulate like no other action figure in their caliber, right? So it's like, how do you make the most articulated 6-inch action figure line for the price point, but with the gear and the secondaries that they're going to have on it? So we deep dove into it, and there's a lot that goes into where do you cut, where do you add seam lines. So you'll notice that we put a lot of seam lines by the cuts to try to hide them as well.
Yeah.
And then those who have the figures already will notice there's a brief over the waist. That is so that the hip drop can be hidden better.
It's amazing.
It adds for more flexibility. There's an extra sleeve over top the torso that we call the lapel, which allows for customization later on. And we've also added in the waist rocker with the ab crunch, just because I've been finding in particular that movement helps with commandos.
Oh, totally.
Getting into formation and all that. So
it's incredible what you can actually what you can put Snake Eyes in position wise is insane. Like the kind of very much like the kind of Spider-Man articulation of the Marvel Legends, like the newest Spider-Man. I mean, it's like on par with that, which blows the mind when you really think about it. So yeah. Amazing
man.
work.
Yeah, and that's what was so difficult about it, right? It was like he was the prototype. So how do we make a prototype that's going to fulfill the need of most of the Joes going forward?
Mm.
And how do we account for what we're going to do in the future? And the reason for Snake Eyes 2 being the prototype is he is a blend. He's a ninja and he's a commando.
Yeah.
So he's going to have a lot of the stuff that the commandos are going to have, and he's going to have a lot of the stuff that many of the ninjas in G.I. Joe have. So, as well as some of the more bizarre characters, right? So
can't wait for them. Cannot wait for the bizarre.
Neither can I. So, but yeah, he was difficult because he's the first of his kind, and we were treading new ground on a lot of things and researching with the other 6-inch action figure brands too, seeing what they were doing, talking with them, meeting with them, finding best practices. So again, he was the first, so he was the hardest because we didn't know yet what we were going to have.
Yeah, amazing. And also kind of linked with the figure, not just articulation, but the deco is fire on that deluxe Snake Eyes. Like, obviously, you know, with an all black figure, most of the time it's like, what can you do with that? So when you guys utilize that really kind of, I don't even know what color it is. I don't even know if it exists in reality. I think you've gone into the negative zone and created a new color. This kind of
we
brown.
Went into the nether.
It's like this brown, green, grey color on the secondaries, and it just really adds something to that particular figure. I mean, yeah, the deco. I mean, talk about the deco for a second.
Yeah. So
why did you go
color,
with that? Yeah.
That color was actually engineered in Cobra La.
Oh, there we go. That's where it came from.
Yes. Actually, for real though, that color is called Black 5.
Yeah.
It has a little bit of brown. It's black with a little bit of brown in it. Oh, frankly,
why did
exactly what it is.
It's amazing.
So it's funny. I thought when I was first speccing it, it was going to be more black because it's the way chips work out. Sometimes they're a little lighter in the book than they are in the figure.
Yeah.
But when we got to production, it was a little lighter, which added a nice contrast to the figure.
I think so. Yeah.
Because Snake Eyes is predominantly an all black character, but in particular for that exclusive, we wanted to add more premium to the color, and we wanted to add something to differentiate it because we knew we were going to use him later. Snake Eyes, you can't release a wave without Snake Eyes in it. So we knew that we had to do something different for the exclusive release, and the idea was how do we lean more into the commando aspect of it, and that's where that kind of Black 5 came from, because Black 5, it's brown. There's commando. It's a fatigue color, really. So we took that fatigue color in there to kind of play up into that story a little more, and I think it just added a nice level of contrast. Whenever I do a deco, whether it be Transformers or G.I. Joe, I'm trying to come up with a composition that tells a story on the figure. I have this kind of rule. It's like 3 or 5 colors. Sometimes we break it, of course. You can't stick to rules on every design. But the idea there is, how do you create a color composition that is visually interesting to the eye when you look at it and it's drawing? And a black character, suited character, is, of course, because you're going down the aisle and you see all these characters, and all of a sudden this one's stark one color. But how do you add a little more contrast to the figure when you're looking at it? You see it on Destro too. He's got black 9, I think, on him. That's where the gray areas are.
Yeah.
And it's a nice way to add that color composition without overly coloring the character.
Totally. And also kind of brings out those details as well, doesn't it? That all black can sometimes mask, whereas if you're using those kind of subtle tones in and around other areas, it kind of makes those areas kind of stand out a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, totally agree with that. And also, like, on the opposite side of the color spectrum, you've gone very bright with a lot of the other kind of characters. Is that more a kind of way of like them standing out on pegs kind of thing? Or, I mean, what was your kind of design approach with, say, Scarlet's kind of color scheme, or like the gold aspects that we see on the armor and stuff like that?
We'll get to the gold. We'll get to the gold. So,
by the way, I don't mind the gold. I know there's a lot of talk about gold.
There is a lot of talk about gold, and But for the colors themselves, we wanted to play into the brightness of the original cartoon, which was very bright. I mean, it's been streaming on YouTube, and I've been jumping back into it a lot too. I mean, even though I've had G.I. Joe in the brain for 3 years now.
I can imagine, yeah.
yeah. And It was bright, and the first part of our philosophy was to make a bright colored line
Yeah.
so that it stood out. And especially for a new consumer, how do you attract a new consumer and get a vibe of fun? We didn't want to go too drab. And yes, military does have the more drab colors, and we will be seeing characters in more drab colors, but we were afraid that the whole line would have been a drab color palette.
Yeah.
And G.I. Joe through the years has been such an eclectic brand. I mean, you go from 82, which was all military drab, then all of a sudden in 83, 84, you start getting characters with metal heads
Yep.
and brighter colors. I mean, Scarlet had fire red hair
Yeah.
in the 83, 84 1.5 edition or whatever. So it's like we wanted to start taking stuff from all the different iterations in the different years, and then the 90s kids, and like,
Yeah.
I mean, the ice cream soldier.
Exactly.
So,
yeah.
so, and again, we didn't want to go overboard, but we did know that we needed to make a line that was eye-catching.
Yeah, no, that's great, and you're right. Like I don't see how people can kind of talk about GI Joe without like even thinking about that bright color. When you look at the Sunbow cartoon, you look at the Neon 90s. There's so much about. It's not just one year of a brand. Like this brand has been going for so long and has so many different iterations that it's like what I like the fact that you're all trying to kind of bring some of that from all the areas into this line, which I suppose as a 6-inch figure, you've got the scope to do so, haven't you?
Yeah, you do. And it's interesting because 6 inches is such a good scale because it's a really great play scale as well as a collection scale. You're getting a lot of details, you're getting a lot of playability, you're getting a lot of posability.
Yeah.
You're also getting a lot of accessory play, which we're seeing in the Joe line. And that being said, you have kids that are diving into these figures. You have adults that are diving into these figures, and adults from different generations. I grew up, let's see, I was born 1983. My Joes were predominantly 1988 through I guess 98, 2000.
Yeah.
So I went through the gamut of the different Joe iterations, and I think a lot of people have. So Joe means so much to so many different collectors and fans, that we wanted to create a new look. This was the new aspirational look for G.I. Joe in this particular scale. That being said, that's where the colors emerged from. So you guys are going to see a lot of different color theories depending on the character's story.
Yeah.
So if the character needs golds, they'll have golds, which I can get into the golds. And the golds were interesting. The golds, the idea there was to be like, these are the first newly minted Joes.
Right.
We are going to put metallic Deco ops on these figures to say, hey, these are the new Joes. They're brand new. They're premium decoed. First wave out. Here are some hits to celebrate G.I. Joe.
Nice.
In its newly minted form. Now, we probably won't be seeing a lot of that, but we'll be seeing it where the character needs it. Sure. If we ever do a Voltar, you're going to probably have a gold helmet.
Good. You know what I mean? I'm glad to hear that. So,
I want to make a Vulture 6-inch figure.
Fully articulated drone technology, so it flies itself. Yeah, that would be
nice. If yeah, right. It would be a $10,000 with the microchip technology.
Oh, my goodness.
But to give away a little bit, like I said, I'm a dinosaur kid. Love dinosaurs. I'm super dork. But animals, I want to get into animal design so bad.
Yeah, I'm also my wife and I are massive dinosaur dorks as well. So
awesome.
I absolutely love it. Anyway, again, tangent. Sorry. Let's talk about the packaging quickly, because that's something as well that's obviously synonymous with G.I. Joe. I mean, I love the fact that you guys have gone with like different artists for the artwork. I think it gives them so much personality, and there was initially a bit of kind of concern that they wouldn't marry up together on a shelf because they're all different art. But when you see them all together, they look fantastic. So I think that's definitely a success certainly from my point of view. What was the thinking there to kind of give them individual art?
The graphics team, Sean Kenny and Tom Morelli, wanted to tap into pop culture for this line.
Yeah.
So to do that, they reached out to a lot of influential artists. on Instagram, and they wanted to see Joe's through a modern lens and how these artists would interpret it.
Awesome.
And what's actually really interesting too is a lot of these artists grew up with G.I. Joe, and the guys are saying, and again, I'm not in charge of that. I just, I get to witness this awesome art that these guys are curating and creating. But they were saying a lot of the artists were like chomping at the bit, and they were just like, I want Cobra Commander.
Yeah.
I want Destro, and they would be like asking for stuff, and the guys are actually trying to curate the characters to the artists who were asking for the particular character. But the one thing I took from it was it's amazing how much this brand has influenced entertainment in the art community.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you have all these known, talented, masterful artists asking to do these characters they grew up with. And in a lot of cases, you're like, you were into G.I. Joe? I didn't know that. Wow. Oh my God. You know what? It shows. And at the same time, I think from the graphics team standpoint, they wanted to play into that eclecticness, I guess.
That's we'll make it a word now. It's fine.
We'll make it's a new word. The eclectic nature of G.I. Joe, right? So, and again, it speaks to where we were going with the product design as well. It's like there are so many generations and iterations of Joe. I think it's a nod to this brand has a lineage, and how do you just bake it into one thing? You can't. You have to celebrate the many aspects of it, and I think that's what the eclectic nature of the box is doing.
And I must admit the artwork has just been so beautiful as well, and like hopefully I've been in contact with Tracy Ching, so hopefully we'll be able to get an interview with her soon. She did the Snake Eyes artwork, and I mean that just on its own is incredible, and Timber looks really good in that as well.
So good. Yeah,
I know you can't talk about that, but are we likely to see a Timber in the future?
Ben, are you on? Ben, I just called you on because I wanted to bring up how I've been parading around the office saying how we need to do Timber, and it's that's okay to say because I love G.I. Joe animals.
No, I mean, Lenny, the desire is there. I think there's a lot of interest in doing the pets that are part of this universe from Shipwreck to Spirit to to Snake. I mean, it's just an amazing world that was created so long ago that goes beyond just it. I don't say it's nurturing in its own unique way. I don't know what you feed a killer crocodile. Probably nothing.
Green shirts.
Too
You feed them Breaker.
Feed them Joe's. Yeah.
Perfect.
So I think we can then probably say, like you said, Ben, like it's such an expansive world.
Yeah.
And G.I. Joe, like what would this line be without animals?
Yeah.
What would it be without their pets and their companions? So I would say yes, the possibility is very likely, if I have anything to do with it, that we're going to have animals in this line.
Nice. Good answer. Good answer.
Yeah. That was corporate, right?
Yeah. And I would say we can say this too. I think as I've discussed more with Lenny around this and all that is around this property and the characters is with what he's done and the team has done with 6-inch and the articulation and just everything there, that anything we do, and I know he mentioned a lot of the studies that have been done on vehicle play, similar in the animals and pets, it needs to fit this detailed world that is being created. So therein lies a new challenge for Lenny and team.
Yeah.
I think that's where a lot of the pets we saw in the 80s were, just unarticulated, slug figures. I think this new 6-inch classified universe gives us a new canvas to paint in for all interpretations of the characters. And I would say Timber is as much a character as Snake Eyes.
Awesome.
Yeah, like if we're gonna do an animal in G.I. Joe Classified, it's gonna be a G.I. Joe Classified animal, and that means a lot of things. It means articulation. It means deco. It has to pose. It has to be a hero, and we have to give it the proper tools to be that hero. And it's going to require some. It's going to require some R&D, but we want to get there. And to Ben's point, like you can't just make a slug wolf or a slug eagle. you have to do it right for the brand.
Yeah, totally. That's a great answer. I know you probably can't go into any details for future characters, etc., but the art on the reverse of the boxes shows a series of Joes and Cobras yet to be revealed. We've got the website's just launched, and we've got loads of characters all over the place on the Joes and Cobra side. I mean, can we at least assume that these additional characters are involved in future waves?
First answer would be tune in on Fan First Friday, and some questions may be revealed.
Fantastic. Thank you.
But I think G.I. Joe, like we've been saying, is such an expansive universe that there are so many characters throughout the different iterations that we would love to bring into this iteration of G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
So, just stay tuned and see where we take the line. And there are obvious choices that we will probably be going with.
Yeah. Ice Cream Soldier, as you mentioned earlier. Yeah.
Ice Cream Soldier. That's going to be, I don't even know what number we're going to be.
8 or 9 or something. Yeah.
Number 10 is Ice Cream Soldier, and that's the only trooper we're going to do. No, but I think if Ben, if you want to talk to maybe the website and how that's just kind of like, I guess it's celebrating, really, right?
Yeah, it definitely was. Our goal is, as Lenny said up front, is to engage the next generation of fans, to obviously yourself included and others, and we kind of harken back to the old days of the cards and everything else, which I have all my cutout character cards in here in my basement. It's fantastic. But I think the idea here was to help just create the narrative, and in every character their story is not independent. It has to do with their opposition and their peers and Joe or Cobra. So we wanted to kind of put that story out there. It didn't necessarily mean here are the toys. This is a story universe. No character can live in the story without knowing kind of who they stand beside as they go to battle. So that was really a lot of the motivation for us, was to create that narrative, and we needed to do that with the right cast on our website, and even in the poster. If you just put the 5 figures we revealed in a poster, like it's kind of a boring poster, So the idea was initially to really just start the narrative around Joe versus Cobra. Is it as Lenny said, is that inspiring the characters? And sure. I mean, it's a no-brainer. If you looked at those posters, you're like, of course we all want to make toys of so many of these characters.
Yeah.
But it wasn't necessarily a one-for-one.
Yeah.
There, it was intended to, again, create that narrative for the brand. But I think what's fun, and the question that we didn't get to, is what the fan narrative. I think all I can say is the passion is fierce.
Yeah.
And everybody's hungry for this to be back and be real. So to hear that commentary, to read the commentary on the poster, the website, everything else of what everybody wants, that's what Lenny and I spend half our days just doing that.
Yeah.
And that does inspire and motivate what we do next. And oftentimes what we had next may be pushed out because of what we're here, what everybody is saying.
Yeah.
And we pivot. So I think you look at a poster like that, there's a lot of characters that didn't make the poster that the fans really want. And that I can say up front, Lenny and I and team, that does motivate what we do next. So there may be surprises. And I would just, over the coming weeks and months, expect some surprises.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. We really appreciate that answer as well. You could have just said, no, get off and stop talking to us, but that's great. Thank you. Guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. Lenny, thank you so much for jumping on and chatting to us. Really, really appreciate it, everything you guys are doing. Ben, thank you also for jumping on. To Natalie, who is invisible at the moment on the call. I'm going to shout you out anyway, Natalie. Thank you for jumping on. Do you want to say something for the video?
No.
Perfect. That's all we need. Again, thank you so much, Lenny. Really appreciate it and everything, mate. Is there anything else you want to talk about? I mean, obviously we've got Fan First Friday coming up. Have we got any more reveals this week before Friday by any chance? Because you guys have been revealing little bits and pieces on a daily basis since Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah. So later today there will be a reveal by one of our partners. So not a figure, but I would say one of our licensed partners will be revealing something quite epic. So definitely be on the lookout on our social handles for that. It actually may drop before you put this out, so I'm sure you guys can talk a lot about it.
What? Why am I even talking to you guys? I should be refreshing my feed every 13 seconds. Because if I do it more than that, then the website locks me out for some reason. But no, guys, absolute pleasure.
You're a bot. They think you're a bot.
They do. They think I'm They think I'm some sort of spam. Which, let's face it, the Full Force is kind of that way. But anyway, that brings us to the end of the interview. Lenny, Ben, Natalie, thank you so much for allowing me to do this. Lenny, thank you so much for talking through the designs and classified and everything. Absolutely appreciate it more than you would even understand or comprehend.
Thank you for having us, man.
No, absolutely. And I really hope we can do this again. I hope we can talk about this stuff in the future. I hope you guys are up for that. I hope I haven't put you off too much. No, they haven't said anything, guys.
No, it was fun. It was fun. I enjoyed just listening. I mean, I had no intention of interrupting that amazing interview.
Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed talking with you at Toy Fair, and this has been so great too. I'd love to talk more.
Awesome. I'll be round in a few minutes then. Thank you. If you haven't pre-ordered these incredible figures, guys, then get on Hasbro Pulse immediately and rectify that. And also, I cannot recommend this line highly enough. It is wonderful. I'm sure you're all already aware of that anyway. I hope you've had a good time, and we'd love to have you back on in the future, as I've said. As the line grows, it's going to be amazing. I'm so excited. Looking forward to the reveals this week. Guys, thank you very much. I'll speak to you very soon, and that's it for this interview. Thank you very much.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys.
That's it for this installment of the Full Force News Burst. Thank you to my awesome Hasbro guests, Lenny Panzica, Ben Montano, and Natalie Simone. See you next time, and as always, Full Force. Make sure you get involved with the discussion by liking, sharing and commenting on these videos, and as always you can keep up with the show after listening by following on Twitter @The Full Force, liking the Facebook page facebook.com/The Full Force, and if you would like to contact the show you can message us on either of those platforms with feedback or questions. We have also started a Patreon page, so if you want to see your name up in lights on these videos or enjoy exclusive bonus content, then check out patreon.com/The Full Force Podcast, or click the link on any of the posts this podcast appears in. Full Force.